fell in love with chemistry here in the same chemistry room that a lot of you are in with Mrs. Hart and Mrs. Check. He loved chemistry because he was inspired by a teacher called Dr. Joe Hesse, who taught here for a number of years and moved on to community college downtown. Dr. Ryan went on to Michigan State, where he received a number of degrees in chemistry. I'll let him name them for you, they're kind of long. And he now has his PhD. The one thing that I want you to know is that a lot of times, as students, especially students coming in ninth grade, they often think, I can be a doctor, I can be a lawyer, I can be an engineer, a policeman, a fireman, a nurse, or a school teacher. But there's a million different things that you can all become. There are degrees out there that you've never heard of before. There's a whole world out there for you to learn and explore. And that's one of the reasons I wanted Dr. Ryan to come talk to you today, because you're going to see all the amazing things that you can do once you leave West Catholic with the knowledge that we've given you. So would you please give a warm welcome to Dr. Thomas?
Well, good afternoon. And, thanks for indulging me in a quick commercial. But my name is Tom Ryan, and I am so happy to be here. It's been a while. I was recollecting today that last time I was here was the last time I walked through the doors in May of 1975 when I graduated. So it's really great to walk the halls with Cindy and the team, kind of go back to my old chemistry lab and have fun. Thank you for the warm introduction, Cindy. I really appreciate that. And thanks to all of you for taking a little time out on homecoming on Friday to let me spend some time and thoughts with you. Well, obviously, Smashburger is my passion. It's something I started started working on in 2006. And as we sit here today, there's about 240 stores around the world, 4 countries outside the U.S., and I'm really happy that there's 3 right here in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's been an interesting path. As Cindy said, if I think back 10 years ago, I can't imagine that I'd be standing up here today talking about this or showing you that, because I had, quite frankly, no idea that I'd be doing this 10 years ago. It's an interesting path, and that's kind of what I want to spend some time talking to you about today. The path is really important. And even if you don't know where the path is or where it's going to take you, I think it's always important to know that you're on it. So let me share some of my thoughts about my path and when I knew I was on it, and maybe that will help you as you learn everything you're learning about life in high school. Get on your own path. So as Cindy said, I graduated from here in 1975. I was really focused on science. I was a big chemistry guy and biology guy. I really loved it. I went to Michigan State University and studied food science as an undergrad, which is kind of, if you don't know what that is, it's applied microbiology, physics, and chemistry of food. It lets you look at a ketchup bottle very differently because it really defines the technology that took it from the field to putting on the shelves to making sure it's good in your home. It's kind of fascinating to me. I ended up getting my master's degree in something called lipid toxicology, which is a really big set of words. It's really fun to say at cocktail parties. But what it really is understanding what components in your diet that are fat-based, how they hurt you. So I spent a couple of years isolating and identifying sources of those things in foodstuffs, and learned a lot from that experience. Learned one thing, and that's that I really didn't want to spend my career writing papers about such things. I ended up getting my PhD in flavor and fragrance chemistry, and so many people want to know what that's all about. It's really applied biochemistry. It's really understanding the chemistry of developing really great tasting flavors, or the chemistry of stopping very bad tasting flavors from happening. And I studied that for about 3 years, and then went to work in the food industry at a little company called Procter & Gamble, and I had the honor there of really working on roasting technology. Anybody here, show of hands, ever had Jif peanut butter? Take your hands. Perfect. I know you're all young. Folgers coffee? Or, yeah, good. And Duncan Hines cakes, frosties, brownies, whatever, So my first job, believe it or not, was I got to design roasting technology to develop better peanut, better coffee, and better cocoa flavors for those 3 brands. So that's kind of what a flavor chemist who's very technically focused does. My passion now, which really started here, was to be intellectually curious about how the world could be better. How could I personally make a difference other than changing the flavor profile of Jif peanut butter or changing the flavor profile of Folgers coffee. I really had this burning desire that started right within these four walls to do something different, to make a difference, to understand enough about food, about consumers, and about the marketplace to really do something big. And as I got more and more passionate about that, I learned a few things about myself. I learned that I had to study some things that college and high school hadn't taught me. I needed to get some tickets punched in the area of marketing and consumer work. And so I made some really interesting career decisions for somebody with my background, what I call a couple of my left-hand turns. I moved from being a scientist to being a junior marketing guy, took a step backwards for about a year and a half to do that. But in hindsight, that left-hand turn, that notion of mine that if I did that somewhere down the road that would be important, actually paid off. It afforded me the ability to really start to understand more than just the technical side of food, but also the aesthetic side of food, which is now really cool, which we'll talk about in a minute. But also a little bit more about marketing and how to talk to consumers and how to understand the craft of promising things into the marketplace and making sure that your products fulfill on them. All those things became very obvious to me. What I also learned is that when I was a scientist, really doing purely scientific things, I spent hours collecting information about restaurant companies because most of the trends in packaged goods come from restaurants. And I learned very quickly that chasing those down was not only difficult, but not very satisfying. When you found out what they were, you wanted to go copy people. And I decided, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I'd like to be the guy that's actually doing this on the front end. So my second left-hand turn was something people in our traditional food science arena don't do. I went to work in the restaurant business because I wanted to be part of setting new trends. I resigned from my position in Minneapolis, Minnesota, moved to the booming metropolis of Wichita, Kansas. Anybody ever been there? Yep. Anybody want to go back? You got it. That's Wichita. Anyway, it was a great move, and I worked for Pizza Hut. I was the director of product development there. And some of you guys probably know my work. If you've ever had a meat lover's pizza or a pepperoni lover's pizza or any of those things, see those hands to keep the energy up. Yep, I did those. And then probably the biggest thing I've ever done in my life, the first thing that really made me fall in love with what I was doing and get super passionate about wanting to do this over and over again. Anybody had a stuffed crust pizza before? Yeah, so that was a really fun project. That was my big one that I did. And we put that in, we tested that in 1993 and put it in the marketplace in 1994. It was probably one of my best life lessons. I doubted it for the first 3 months I worked on it. I thought it was a gimmick. I believed in it for the next 6 months, and then we put it in the marketplace and waited and did $1.5 billion in sales the first year it was out there. So it was really quite remarkable. Struck a chord with consumers on a very basic premise of putting the most valuable part of a pizza, the cheese, and the most undervalued part of the pizza, the crust. And that simple kind of way of looking at things and then developing to do that for consumers turned out to be a big win. And by the way, what I learned in hindsight, that disappointed a lot of dogs because I learned in hindsight that a lot of dogs before that were living on pizza crust. So interesting side story. From there, I really wanted to keep that going. I made some other life decisions. Just going through the rest of my career very quickly before we get to Smashburger. I left there and went to McDonald's in Chicago, and I had the ability to kind of influence what was being put on or taken off, if you will, the U.S. menu. You probably had some of the work I did there too. If you ever had a McFlurry, did that. If you've ever had a McGriddle, did that. And if you've ever eaten anything off the dollar menu, did that. And so those were all really great, impactful programs for an existing brand. Back in the back of my mind through all of this was this notion that there had to be something more creative, more driven, that would really task these multi-dimensional skills I was looking for through my life. Understanding food, understanding consumer, understanding the market, understanding the business side of things. And I made a really tough decision that parts of my family still remind me of often. And that's I made a decision to leave McDonald's, which was a very wonderful company, very comfortable, and took a big risk at the ripe old age of 47 to move to Denver, Colorado, and do things that were on what I call the blank page, tabula rasa. Absolutely nothing there to begin with. And I took on some partners there who really wanted to see the same, had to share the same vision. Went to work in 2006 in a very small lab, made my first smash burger with a pile of certified Angus beef and a lid from a Hellmann's mayonnaise jar. And figured out how to do that really well, and then had to work on the rest of the menu, the design of the store, the business model for what we use DECA or the equivalent here, had to work on the P&L, had to figure out where our labor, all those elements were going to be, and then put our first store on the ground in Denver, Colorado in 2007 in June. And that was a short 6.5 years ago, and here we sit with 240 stores. Got a wonderful team back in Denver that supports it every day. The film keeps me from having to talk about ourselves a lot, but as you can see, the passion that went into the food, the drive to really change the marketplace, the ability to take something really familiar, like a hamburger, and make people see it in a modern, differentiated way, was really a magic thing to see. And our goal was two things: a great burger you can taste in every bite, and most importantly, to design around a concept that let people put burgers back into their lives. And what I mean by that is occasion. It's not about the food anymore. It's about understanding what do people do in their everyday life? What do they strive to do? Where are they eating? And believe it or not, the quick inside story on Smash Burger is that we are putting burgers back into people's lives. When we talk to people leaving Smash Burger, we ask them where would you have gone instead. And over half of them, nearly 60% of them, tell us that they would go someplace that doesn't even serve a burger. And it's an amazing array of concepts they would go to instead of around the country. Red Lobster, P.F. Chang's, and big sit-down restaurants. And I think the magic in that is that we've really learned how to take a great basic level of food, great basic level of business, great basic level of experience, and shape it into something that allows people to see something that they have total access to already, see it in a brand new way, and we made something bold, new again. And so that's kind of a quick lesson behind Smash Burger. I think it's a real great innovation. I think romancing the familiar is really an important thing that I have to keep in mind every day, and to keep a young mindset, because I think the business is moving quicker and quicker. Cindy asked me to talk a little bit about the principles along the way that were important to me, that may be important to you. So let me share a couple of those with you today. First and foremost, I think the best thing you can do, especially at your age, is believe in yourself. I think having an internal passion to know that there's something really important in all of you, something that you can bring out that's different than anything else others can bring out, is really great. Something you have to keep in mind and sometimes work to find. I had to do that when I was here, to find a way to figure out what my potential was. In an interview I did earlier this morning, I can tell you the key to success and the magic in finding that. Listen to your heart. Passion counts a ton. So as you're sitting through English Lit or AP History or AP Chemistry or Biology, either understand, so do yourself a favor. Try to understand if there's one of those that you really love going to. Understand why. Figure it out. Think about it. Or if there's something about all those classes, some aspect of it that you like, whether it's the writing part of it or the analytical part of it or even the challenge of taking tests and all those things. Some people like that. Understand that about yourself, because those little things are telling you something about yourself. You feel that energy inside about getting excited about what you do. Those things are telling you something. So that's principle number one. Understand and follow your passion. Second thing, don't make any long-term decisions too fast. Like I said, I couldn't imagine doing this 10 years ago. I can't believe I'm here today. I can't believe I was honored last night, and it's just a dream come true. And a really humbling experience, because really all I'm doing is what I do. And so the benefit of that is I'm just following my passion, making sure that every day I'm focused on things care about, and I strive to be and make a difference to. So that's principle number 2. Third, happiness counts double. So write that one down on your cover someplace. Put my name after if you care to. Happiness counts double. I have 3 children, 2 of which are still in college, 1 just graduated. I've been telling them this their entire life, that you can strive to be successful, you can work really hard, and all those things are really great things to do if you're happy. So the connection that I'm trying to bring to life for you today is to connect the things you're passionate about with how you spend your lifetime, because those 2 things connected will make you happy. And I would rather see my kids do something much less impactful, much less successful than anything if they're happy. So I counsel everybody. I counsel, we saw my partner Dave, our CEO, I counsel him every month about happiness counts double. I counsel my 23-year-old daughter that happiness counts double. It really does. And so I think it's a little karmic conversation at this point in time to say this, but it really does matter. So follow your heart, be passionate, remember that happiness counts double. And life kind of takes care of itself if you have those things aligned and you're living up to your potential. So that's kind of my comments about my life. Cindy and I talked a little bit last night about it being really interesting because of all these fun, funky things I've done, and you guys might have some questions. So I wanted to take the next couple of minutes and do some Q&A. If anybody has any questions about Smashburger or anything else in the past, so we're going to take some questions. Come on. Who's going to win tonight?
There's some up there.
Who's going to win tonight? I did not go to culinary school. It's a great question, though. I studied food technically, and then right when I got out of school, it got really obvious to me that I knew everything there was to know, but I cared about knowing the technical side, but I didn't know anything about the aesthetic side. And so most industries have chefs or consulting people they brought in, and the minute I met my first one, I know I need to know more of what you do. So I've had chefs on my staff since 1988. They're really great people to learn from. And it was different back then. This is back in 1970. So this is back in 1984, guys. I mean, I know you're all really young, but there was a time when food wasn't cool. It's really cool now. You can't walk down an aisle at Target without seeing rows and rows of stuff to buy and utensils. You can't click through a TV station without finding shows about TV or cooks or cook-offs or contests or whatever. But this is back in the day when it really wasn't cool. So it's a really great question. It's a huge, important part of the landscape. And I have, people, when they call me a chef, I correct them because I really wish I was. To be honest with you, it's a really cool thing to do.
Where in Grand Rapids are your restaurants?
We're in Grand Rapids. So there's one in the Spectrum Health Center on Michigan Avenue between, I don't know what streets are, Spectrum Health Center. There's one really close to the corner of 28 and East Belmont. And then there's one in Kentwood, but I can't really remember what the cross streets are.
Kalamazoo and M6.
Kalamazoo and M6, the peanut gallery says.
I know where.
I have a question for you. Tell us what's unique about the smash burger. I mean, I know it's prepared differently.
Yeah. So, really, the quick commercial sounds like this. It's certified Angus beef. It's fresh, never frozen. It's actually hand-packed into loosely packed meatballs that we smash on a butter-painted grill when we order it. Lets us cook big burgers very quickly, very uniformly, keeps all the juices in the burger. That's kind of the short story. I had another hour a little later afterwards. If they want to hear.
What's your favorite part of this?
Of all this,
Yeah, like your success.
probably the most rewarding part of it is I was driving from Denver to Minneapolis 2 years ago, and I wasn't even thinking about work, and I drove through Omaha, Nebraska, and drove by a smash burger. And it surprised me. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe there's a smash burger, I just drove by it. And so I think it's the unexpected growth and the ability to kind of, wherever I am, and I drive by, and it's like, oh my God, if I would have done that's the kind of big rewarding part of it. Just getting the sheer impact of existence is kind of fun. And then the feedback is great. You know, it's great to get great awards. It's great to get recognized by Forbes magazine. It's really great to nurture the team. You know, I kind of consider myself a little bit on the back nine of my career. And so it's really great. One of the things we do at Smashburgers, we have a lot of really great, young, smart talent. And it's great to be able to provide those people with such a cool brand to grow into and to develop and nurture their skill set. So I think that's the rewarding part. And last but not least, I'm a people. I love people. I love working with people. And restaurants are a great people business. So that affords me the ability to be around a lot of people all the time, which is really great. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Let's try again. Just scream.
What was your lifelong dream?
I heard, what is my lifelong dream? I didn't hear the end.
What was your lifelong dream when you were younger?
I was younger. Oh my God. To live to be older was probably number one, because it does mean the alternative. You know what? It's going to sound a little crazy, but I always kind of believe that balance counts. So I wanted to be doing stuff that I was really passionate about. I wanted to have a home life that was really kind of nurturing. And so the way I tell people when they ask me, are you happy? Because I always talk about happiness kind of double. I said, I'm really happy when you say, well, I can't wait to go to work in the morning, and I can't wait to go home at night. And when you live your life like that, you know, I don't know if that was a dream. I don't know if I was that aware of it when I was young, but I am now, and it's really important to value. Yeah, go ahead. I got you.
What inspired you to smash a hamburger instead of like the standard hamburger?
What inspired me to smash a hamburger instead of just do a standard beat? A lot of trial and error, to be honest with you. The goal was, you know, it's not some family recipe, trust me, it wasn't. And so we really wanted, on the smash burger side, we wanted to find a very distinctive way to reinvent burgers, if you will. And so lots of trial and error. We smacked it with hammers, we used it on char grills, we did everything. We looked at everything from, 99 cents and a chub meat all the way up to like ground Kobe beef, and landed on certified Angus, and landed on this smashing technique, which we now have a patent on, because there's something magic about the smashing tool and its design criteria and the volume that it smashes. A lot of physics involved. But we got a patent on those physics. It just turned out to work. And we fell in love with that. And then it became the core of our brand from the burger brand. Make sense? Yeah.
Do your kids share the same passion as you, or they study different stuff?
The question is, do my kids share the same passion? A little, mostly not. My oldest daughter is actually, she just moved to Sydney, Australia. She is a food blogger. She was in DC. She works for a market research company, both there and now in Sydney. But she's probably the foodiest person from a career perspective. She loved writing about it. She loved working in the industry, where she managed our Facebook for a while and did our social media. My other two kids are big food fans, especially when I'm buying. But they're not really interested in anything in the business per se, to be honest with you. So, not really. They like to talk about, their friends like to talk about stuff, recipes and stuff, and that's the best part of them.
Yeah, we have another question over here, over this way. Yeah.
Are you going to be at the game tonight?
I am going to be at the game tonight. Yes, if it's not raining. Are you? Okay, you're good. You do a great job. Anything else? Couple more? Yell it.
Why did you start with the lipid chemistry? Was it something particular that
Why did I start with chemistry in general? You said?
Lipid
Oh, so that was my master's, so to be perfectly candid with you, I don't know if you know how much you know about graduate school, but part of the key to graduate school is to put yourself in situations where you can get funding. So I'm sure a lot of administrators know this, so I actually did some research and found out that the government was really interested in that area. so my major professor and I wrote a grant, we got it accepted. It got me the money to get through graduate school, to be honest with you. So I was interested in it as a very interested third and fourth party.
How much thought did you put into the assembly of the dollar menu at McDonald's?
So the question is, this is a great question, by the way. I hope this is what it is you think it is. How much thought did it take to put into the thinking behind the dollar menu at McDonald's? It took no more than 43 cents an item worth of thinking. Because the accountants told me, you can do this, but if anything costs more than 43 cents, we're going to kill you. And so that's actually kind of a nice assignment, because when the box is that clearly defined, you can only put stuff in there that costs 43 cents or less all in. Your options go from a lot of things to some very narrow things pretty quickly. And so most of the thinking went around on that one, went around, is this or is this not going to hurt the brand? Because $1 is a pretty scary price point, even then. This was back in 1999, I guess already. That was 15 years ago. But that was really the most intense thinking, was it's going to hurt the brand, and then how are our franchise partners going to like that, which they still don't. So the thinking was more about the business side than it was about the food side, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, the papers and everything about nutrition and upsizing those big deals, so it's all about health. And how do you try and get things like non-hydrogenated or other supposedly healthy things into your products?
Sure. So the question is really about the nutritional landscape and people and how we're dealing with it these days. It's an interesting question, because the opposite of unhealthy in the food business is really not healthy. It's what I call wholesome. And wholesome has a variety of different attributes to it. Some are quality attributes, some are not having certain things. You mentioned hydrogenated fats, and some are actually the presence of other benefits like organic or all natural or things like that. So at Smashburger in particular, I believe that modern brands have to have through the story, and that story has to be an amalgam of those different wholesome elements. So at Smashburger, for instance, we are totally MSG free. We are totally hydrogenated fat-free in nature. We use certified Angus beef, which is all natural. We use all natural chicken. We use Haagen-Dazs ice cream for our shakes, which is all natural. Cage-free eggs. The litany goes on. Now, what we do with those is not necessarily, if you order the most indulgent things on our menu, the healthiest thing to do. And so the way modern brands deal with that is in balance. And so you go to Smashburger and get a triple burger. I know you guys up there had one today or yesterday. But triple burger with triple cheese, and you can just have a day of it, right? Or 2 days of it, to be honest with you. Or you can go in there and get a classic chicken sandwich at 450 calories and an iced tea. And so we believe that providing customers with the balance and the choices that they're looking for across the menu is more important than trying to make one thing that people love not lovable because we can't try to manage too much out of it. And so it's really about consumer choice. I'm a big believer in consumer choice. I think consumer choices are what makes the world go round. So that's how we do it at Smashburger. We have time for one more quick question, and then I'm going to say goodbye. You.
How long does it take to do your hair?
Grow it or every morning? Because I shaved my head 2 weeks ago. It's the burgers. Just saying. I'm just kidding. A little bit of time. It's not becoming an occupational hazard for me, so that was really mean. I'm just kidding. All right, guys.